I decided that I wanted to do my ME story as well as kind of give information as to a little bit about what ME is if you don't know. Because I realize I talk about it on my channel, but there's probably tons of people who, like myself, prior to a year ago, didn't even know what that was. So when I refer to ME or CFS, I am referring to Myalgic Encephalomyelitis and chronic fatigue syndrome. And for me, it started, well, in 2015 I had been sick. I don't know, I feel like I was always the type of person that, like, when I got sick, I got sick. Like, when I got bronchitis, it ended up being bacterial bronchitis, like this huge infection. I had to go on all these antibiotics. And I feel like every time I got sick, I got a little bit weaker. Like the next time I would get sick would be worse. But in 2016, I went to the doctor because I was experiencing, and trigger warning, some of the medical things I'm going to be discussing are a little gross, so just be prepared. But I got my first yeast infection, and I had never had one before, and I'm 29 now, so I was 20, 20, yeah. And I'd never had one before, and for every lady out there who's ever had a first one and never had it before, it's incredibly uncomfortable and a little bit terrifying. And so I went to urgent care, and they made me do a urine test, and they did a swab, culture, that said I definitely have a yeast infection. But on the oh crap, okay. And before this, sorry, my brain fog is one of the worst symptoms for me. But about a month before this, I had gotten a really bad upper respiratory infection, and I was starting to recover from it, and I just started feeling normal, and then I got hit with the yeast infection. Okay, so that was important. And also the upper respiratory was just really bad and really weird, and I had a fever, and I was so sick. It was horrible. So it was February, so this is now March that I got the yeast infection. Went to the doctor. She says yes, it's yeast, but she said that my urine looked abnormal, and they saw blood in it. Anyway, they thought that I had also a UTI, even though I was like, but I don't feel like I do. Like, well, the antibiotics that we're gonna put you on should help you with that, because I'd also said at the same appointment that my throat was hurting, and if they would just take a look at it. And she's like, you have strep throat. I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, most people can't swallow. I'm like, oh, well, I don't know, feels okay to me. It's scratchy, but... And she's like, well, it looks like strep A, but let's, take a test. Well, the express strep that they can do, the rapid strep test, came back negative, because they can do it right then and there, which is like, we're gonna send out culture. So, okay. So now I'm leaving the doctor. I have, I think it was diflucan for the yeast infection, a broad spectrum antibiotic for the UTI that I don't have any symptoms for, and for the strep infection. So anyway, a couple days pass, and I go, this urgent care, you could see your results online. And they'd also done some blood work. And my white blood cell count was through the roof. It was insane. And my urine culture came back, but there was no bacteria found. So I'm on antibiotics for something that didn't have bacteria. And the strep was actually a strep B infection. And it was just super weird. Anyway, then every 3 weeks I would get one symptom and then another, and all of a sudden I was getting UTIs, and the yeast infections would come back, and the upper respiratory would come back, and they just came in these cycles, and I would go back to urgent care and I would get more medication. Eventually, at one point there was a day when I was at work and I was like, oh my god, I have to pee. I go to pee and I couldn't, and I saw blood coming out, and it was just like little bits of it, but you know, it's like, oh crap. So I call my boss and I told her that, hey, this is happening, I have to go to emergency room, or I have to go to my doctor right now. So I got on the bus. It was the most painful bus ride of my life, because it just, like, every step it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And by the time I made it to the doctor, a lot more blood was coming out, and she's like, look, I'm gonna send you to a urologist. And during this time, I had also started bruising really badly, and I was taking all these photos to show my doctors, and they didn't understand it. So it was like, I had the bruising, I had all these infections, I was saving screenshots of the blood work that they were running each time I went to urgent care. Anyway, she sends me to a urologist. By the time I got to him, the cup that I peed in was, it looked like it was just straight blood. It wasn't like there was blood in it. It just looked like there was blood. I actually took a picture of it and sent it to people, because I was like, oh my god, I'm dying. Anyway, the urologist I saw, complete jerk. Because I tried telling him, I'm like, he said that the issue was that the first doctor put me on antibiotics when there was no bacteria found. Like, they shouldn't have done that. And he was like, so I'm gonna send you home with these 2 antibiotics, you know, and everything. And I'm like, but you're saying that they shouldn't have prescribed me antibiotics because they couldn't have gotten the culture back. And I'm like, I'm seeing you now, and you're prescribing me antibiotics for something that you don't have the culture back on. Great. So anyway, then I went, sorry. So after that, the symptoms kept getting worse. My tachycardia was really bad. And over the course of a year, I saw a gastroenterologist who just told me I had stress colitis. I went to a cardiologist who said I just have tachycardia. I went to a gynecologist who just said, well, we're just gonna have to keep trying different prescriptions to help you with the yeast. My period disappeared for a while. I went on birth control to fix it. The bruising, went to a hematologist. She couldn't find anything wrong, and she was actually an incredibly sweet person. She was one of those doctors I actually really liked. And she tried testing me for everything, because I worked at the animal shelter. She tried testing me for, you know, anything that I could have got contracted from an animal. I went to a rheumatologist who said that he believed I was starting to show signs of fibromyalgia. because I had been experiencing pain, especially like weird pain in certain joints and in certain spots of my body. And I'm trying to think. Well, an immunologist who was a jerk, was a complete jerk. Every doctor, I just went with all the other doctors, and all of them, so many of them would say to me, like, you're all just being like, well, you know, gynecological issues, that's not my specialty. My gynecologist saying, urological issues, that's not my specialty. It's like, who freaking see that will look at all of it? Because to me, it seemed like it was all connected, but I just couldn't see how. For a while, I thought I was terrified I had leukemia or something, because of the bruising and the white blood cell count. Anyway, during this time I was on Vyvanse for ADHD. I had been on it for about 3 or 4 years. And so when my rheumatologist asked me, do you feel tired? It was hard to answer because I worked an extremely stressful job where I always felt, exhausted, but I don't know, but that year I started taking cabs like a maniac to and from work. I live in New York City, and the 15-minute walk to the subway just seemed like too much. I'm like, I don't think I can, do the commute to and from work and work. So I just spent a ton of money on cabs. Anyway, it got to a point where I had a senior manager very inappropriately bring up my health in a review, and I went to HR and I decided to take some time off, and I took a month off, and I stopped taking the ADHD medication, and all of a sudden this exhaustion I never experienced before hit me, and I thought that it was just weaning off of the drug. But I went back to work for one day and I was like, I can't do this. I'm gonna pass out. So I left. I resigned from my job, and I thought, all right, I'm gonna get better. So I took another shelter reached out to me immediately, and I took that job. And my thyroid was having issues. Oh, that was another thing. Oh yeah, and I also saw an endocrinologist. I saw so many doctors. I can't think. And so for a while I was like convinced it was my thyroid. And I went to, it didn't get better. Leaving work I didn't get better. And just my metabolism started to slow down, and all of a sudden I gained an immense amount of weight. And I mean, like, so fast for my body that I got stretch marks for the first time that I haven't had since I was like 12. And they were horrible, and new stretch marks I didn't even get when I was 12. Because you get them on your hips and your breasts, but now I was getting on my stomach. For a while my doctor had me freaked out because she's like, you are the poster child for Cushing's disease. And I'm like, oh, I saw a neurologist and an MRI. Anyway, it was finally diagnosed with myalgic encephalomyelitis. And I was so discouraged because it was just basically like my doctor told me, well, there's nothing you can do. Like, you could try to exercise, but it might not help. And I feel like I'm doing the shittiest job explaining what the hell has been like for the past few years, but it's the best I can do. Anyway, regardless, at the end of the day, I am now finally getting to see a specialist this coming week. I'm really excited because I made travel plans with my best friend, and I have felt so shitty this past 2 weeks. Like, it's been so bad, and I know it's because I haven't been like great with my diet, and like I've been trying to exercise because I just want to feel healthy, and I can't. If I do it, it knocks me out. And that hurts really bad. But anyway, so if you're from my ME support group, hi, nice to meet you. If you are looking at this because you think you can't find out what's wrong, or you're having a hard time with diagnosis, I still don't know. You know, I think all of us with ME, we still don't know. Like, it could be something else, and they just haven't figured it out yet. And that's what all of us are sitting here waiting for. But I will say, I watched my mother be very sick for a very long time, and not because of her bad experiences with doctors. And I've had some horribly bad experiences with doctors for the past few years. But don't stop going. Keep pushing them. Ask questions. Demand tests. Your body. You're right. You make them fucking figure it out, or you find another doctor. Shouldn't be swearing. I'm really sorry. I hope that you're not under 18 or 13. Anyway, I'm gonna cut this here. And that was my story.